Hi there, my name is Laura and I'm the owner of Cafe Momento here in beautiful Nelson, British Columbia. Welcome once again to my crazy purple kitchen. Today we are going to be making Walkabout soup, which is essentially like, the best way to describe it would be almost like a French onion soup that has cheese in it. The ingredients are quite simple. We have unsalted butter, onion, salt, pepper, flour. In this case I'm using sorghum, which is my favorite, and that keeps it gluten-free. We have broth, heavy cream, and the best part, cheese. Unlike my other soups so far, this soup is not pureed, and when you chop the onions you should leave them big enough that they're nice chunks, but not too big because it's not going to be pureed. They say that the easiest way to cut onions without crying is to not become emotionally attached, but I cannot help it. They are just too much for me. Here I've melted the butter and I've just added the onions in. And I'm going to cook them in the butter until they are clear, but we don't want any browning whatsoever. Now my onions are looking pretty ready. They're just on the verge of turning brown. So now it's time to add the broth, the salt, and the pepper. After we do that, we cover it and leave it alone to simmer for about an hour. Once again, we have something that looks pretty gross right away, but don't worry, when you add the cheese later, it will be good. So now we're just putting the lid on and walking away to do anything else you want for a whole hour. Now about an hour has passed and I have made some cookies, did the dishes, moved my car so the meter man wouldn't get me, and started another soup. But we're ready to proceed with the Walkabout soup. You can see now that it's bubbling along quite nicely. We're just going to add the sorghum flour. Ooh, that music you can hear is the dance studio next door. Wow, that's intense. Anyway, we're just going to whisk the sorghum in. A few lumps will stay, but that's okay because we're going to cover it and cook it again for another half hour, and those lumps will disappear with no effort whatsoever. Now, after about a half hour, you can see that it has thickened up. There's no lumps except for our nice pieces of onion. Now it's time to add our heavy cream. Whisk it around, and then it'll be time for the cheese. Now, I'm not going to tell you how much cheese to put in because you are an adult. You can pick however much cheese you want. Trust me, no matter how much or how little you use, you're not going to ruin it. Adding the cheese is a little bit labor intensive, but it's not very complicated. So you just add a handful of diced or shredded cheese, and then you whisk it around until you can't see any clumps of cheese anymore. Usually takes about a minute to get rid of all that. Make sure that you're only adding the cheese about a handful at a time, and be sure you're whisking thoroughly after each addition, otherwise it will get too clumpy. Now, after you've whisked in all the cheese and double checked to make sure there's no hidden chunks in there, except the onion of course, your soup is finished. Take it off the heat and do not cook it anymore because it will turn really bitty with the cheese. It is ready to serve. With this soup, I am not going to give you the smaller recipe because trust me, you want the large version. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope we'll see you again next time for another Cafe Momento video.